All right, how's everybody doing? So it's been a few days since we've been back in the saddle. There's obviously quite a bit that's been going down. I don't understand what the connection here is, but almost every time we put on a training course, something dramatic or chaotic happens around the world. So while we're all dealing with that, with the new wave of tariffs and all the chain of problems that came with it, here we are back live. Let's talk about a few things. For one thing, thank you very much to everyone who showed up for our first live fire course that happened this weekend at Ready Made Resources. Thank you to Ready Made Resources for hosting that event. As always, if you need any type of preparations, gear, the stored food, all the camping equipment and essentials, power supply stuff like the electric generators, the solar panels, man, radios, night vision, thermal, helmets, you name it, they probably got it. To include some new stuff that I picked up this weekend, some extra side plates for my body armor, and a brand new gas mask that I will be talking about here soon. It's for me, every time I end up going to ready-made resources, I end up spending money, so, but it's a good relationship. They're good people, good Christian people, so please go out and support them. Um, Obviously, the tariff trade war that's going on around the world has a lot of people spinning out of control. We saw what appears to be some sort of a insider market trading deal that was happening with the crashes. Somebody became a multimillionaire over this for sure. But I would tell you that now is definitely not a time to panic because of all this happening, but it is definitely a time to get back into the preparedness mindset. We'll go over some of the stuff here in a bit, but obviously Trump's whole trust the plan deal is kind of one of the most common mantras that we're being told right now. Trust the plan, like Q, right? Trust the plan, trust the intel. Well, for me personally, I don't trust the plan. I don't trust the man. I don't trust the government. I don't trust just about anybody. Um, I put my hope and faith and trust in Jesus. So let's get this squared away right out the gate. My name is Doug Thornton. If you've never seen me before, I'm prior Marine, prior federal law enforcement, did a few things in between. And now my whole goal is to try to preach the gospel from a unadulterated platform where we don't skip over anything, we don't add to, we don't take away, we don't hyperbolic stuff, we don't tell you that the sky is falling every day, and we stay on the Bible, and that's it. So, conspiracy theory hour, it's fun to look at it. Sometimes it's almost just miserable to listen to. But we live in a world of conspiracy theories coming true lately. So for us, and what we try to do here on this platform, like I said, is try to strengthen and encourage and comfort the brethren. So for all of you who are out there, you're worried about this, you're worried about that. Look, I'm right there with you. The economy seems to be kind of wonky. Apparently, prices are about to start to go up on a few places that we shop at, like Walmart and such. Amazon Prime, I think, just canceled all of their incoming um, resupply from China to their warehouses. Now, to what extent that's true, I don't know. I'm not a freaking reporter. All I can tell you is I look at the news constantly and I'm just going to tell you what's popping up. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it's kind of like everything else. We're just like, well, I guess that didn't happen. But with this trade war that's going on right now, we're probably going to see a rise in prices of items, household items, and such um, that may make us a little bit uncomfortable. The thing that Trump was talking about, I think either yesterday or today, is that the next big tariff to go on is on pharmaceuticals. So we obviously get most of our vitamins and most of our minerals and everything else that the human body will ingest for health benefits to include medications, right now it's mostly coming from China. So let's be a little bit unbiased here, because I am very biased when it comes to the government and to anyone who's in the presidency. In an unbiased approach, are the tariffs a good thing? Were the tariffs what needed to happen for America to get back on a fair level playing ground with the rest of the world? I mean, in a short sentence, yes. Okay. Does the entire world, for the most part, because of past administrations, take advantage of the American economy? Yes. But our government allowed it. Our politicians allow it. And the big banks and all the big industrial complexes, they all allow it. So people were just getting by and getting away with what they could. It seems to be that what Trump has done now, all right, on the face of it, not to say that this is some grand scheme of his, but it seems to be the goal is to get everybody paying just like how America has to pay everybody. So that does put us on a little bit of a level footing. Obviously, the first couple of days was absolute chaos and turmoil. I was listening to Tim Pool, not my favorite person to listen to. I don't agree with his beliefs, probably 90% of them. But the reason why I listen to his show is only because the amount of politicians and influencers that come onto that platform and speak, you get to hear a little bit of what everybody is thinking. And they kind of represent a lot of different opinions out there. So for me, that's one place that I'll listen to probably once or twice a day just to see what they're talking about. But Tim Pool said that he lost $100,000 in stocks just the first day. How many other people lost hundreds of thousands of dollars? Just got absolutely wiped out. Probably a bunch. But now the Nasdaq is going up. Stock markets are going back up because Trump put a pause on it. So when he first did the tariffs, he said tariffs are going to remain. I'm not going to touch them. Everybody has been taking advantage of America. And so now it's time for us to kick everyone back in the teeth with tariffs. Um, there are some presidential officials and some old military officials who will say that tariffs are a part of modern day warfare. And to an extent, that can be true, but it's also a different form of checks and balances for governments. I don't agree with the whole thing. I don't even try to pretend that I know it all, but all I can see is what it's doing to the public, which is really all I care about. So while you have, in the grand scheme of things, Trump is trying to make the playing field level for America, make America wealthy again, make America rich again. All the things that we as Christians are told you shouldn't be delving deep into your heart with money. That's all the man's about. And, it is what it is, I guess, with Trump. But he doesn't get affected by this, right? The politicians aren't getting affected by this. If gas goes up, they're not really paying for it, and they get so much damn money for what they do. How is it going to hurt their pockets? Same thing for the president. These people are insulated in the same tariff war that they're going to go and wage war with, but it hurts the American people. Now, for how long this will happen, I don't know. Will you actually see money arriving in your bank account for what Trump does with the tariffs and people coming over here? I don't know. I don't think so. I think the goal is to get manufacturing to come back to America. If we are not making stuff, then we have to rely upon outside resources. Well, the first time we mess around and try to find out, people like China can cut off some very, very severely needed medications and other items that we as Americans should already make, just like the same thing with Taiwan. There's no reason why we should be sitting here as the most, quote, advanced nation on earth, and we should have to rely upon other nations and their goodwill to continue to do resource selling to us. We should be making the chips. We should be making the cars. We should be making our steel. We should be drilling for our oil. We should then be also producing that oil to sell outward. We should be making everything in this country, all right? But we don't do it. Obviously, there's a lot of people who've made a lot of money off of screwing over Americans, and so now we're all dealing with that. Um, the quasi nature of Trump, right? Sometimes you like him, sometimes you hate him. It just is what it is with politics. Don't put your faith in one man, all right? What you're seeing right now with politics, it's all a game. It's the art of the deal. Already, he said tariffs weren't going to come off, and then today he puts a pause on it. I think the only people who didn't get the pause was Canada and Mexico. But for the most part, from what it appears to be, we're going to go into a 90-day pause of tariffs, and tariffs are going down to 10% flat rate for every country around the world that wants to do business with America. And that's so that they can come to the negotiating table, renegotiate. That way, America is not getting raked over the coals with all different types of, tariffs and taxes and whatnot. It becomes just a little bit mind numbing to have to read this 20,000 times a day. But I'll just give you a bit of what I'm researching and then take the information I give you and do with it what you want. You want to double down and research it? Go ahead. Almost everything that I'm getting from is to the extent of what I consider to be the most honest source of media information now, which is Telegram. Um, I think I follow like 20 different channels on Telegram, and to the point that you got guys on the left, guys on the right, you got people in the middle. So I just kind of double tap everybody and see what everybody's saying. Um, Here's a big thing if you're a gun enthusiast, as myself, America is about to go through a little bit of a price hike when it comes to ammunition. A lot of the resources, the minerals that are needed to make gunpowder are currently, from what we need, sitting in a place called Eastern Europe, which is kind of at war. So we could see quite a staggering jump in ammunition. And this is from ammunition manufacturers that told our other partner, Justin Elliott for Vindicta Solutions, this is what they told him, that ammunition is about to go up in price. So if you want to buy ammo, now's probably a good time. I have no idea what website. I'm not sponsored by anybody to go and tell you where to go and buy. I go to the local feed store or to Academy to buy ammo. So yeah, whatever. All right, starting off with the Iron Squirrel domestic instinct. And some of these things I'm going to read, you may hear multiple times. Starting here in the homeland, Trump urges optimism and patience with tariffs and economy. And he says, quote, "We will win, hang tough." Now, what's really interesting about this whole "we will win, hang tough" is a tweet that he put out, which I thought was just a little bit uh, negative. And I want to find it so I can read it to you, because to me it's kind of insulting. But we'll see. Let's see. And for everyone who's joining us right now, thanks very much. Sorry we had to start a little bit late. I spent the better half of this morning butchering chickens for a neighbor of mine, so we're a little bit behind. So Trump tweeted out, "The United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago." Okay, that's pretty true. And then he says, "Don't be weak, don't be stupid, don't be a panickin, a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result." So, whenever everything goes up in price, remember, he's not having to buy this. Everything is on the government dime right now. But for everything you and I have to buy, for all the price hikes that may be coming soon, um, don't be weak, don't be stupid, don't be a panicking. This is what we get from the elite of our country. This is the mindset. I've said this multiple times to the point that I'm just disgusted with them. You cannot think on the same level as a politician or as a billionaire. They don't think like you and I do anymore because power corrupts absolutely. and money corrupts everyone eventually. And so this type of mindset, this type of hoorahing, I'm just not about it. I don't appreciate it. I get it. Some people will see what's going on. They'll go out panic buying. They'll jump all over the internet and they'll, tear down Trump and all that. But that's what you get when you step into that office. You know what's going to happen. The the moral of the story is when your medication that already costs way too much goes up, well, don't be weak. When you need to go and buy new tires, and most of the rubber and all the other manufacturings are coming out of China, for many of the new tires or the batteries, a lot of the components for your car, the stuff you need to fix for your house, your vacuum cleaner broke, and now you gotta go buy a new one, and it's $80 more expensive. Well, don't be stupid, right? This is the mindset of these people. The whole thing with this tariff war is that if it works, great. Then we can get people to come back into America and manufacturing happens here again. But you and I both know everything that's manufactured here in America is much more expensive than what we're buying out of America. So already with a deflating economy that I don't know if it's going to get fixed or not, and with all the tax hikes that are going to be happening because of the trade war, the tariffs, it's kind of like a well, sucks to be you. Um, you know, deal with it until it gets better. That manufacturing that he wants to be brought over here to America, that should have happened decades ago. But instead, he's wanting it to be done now in his presidency. It's gonna take, at the quickest rate, a year, 2 years, 3 years to get these manufacturings to get their permits, to get all the legalities, to get all the money, and then to find the land, build everything. By the time the man's out of office, if he doesn't run for a 3rd term, then they'll start to get built. So, it's just interesting, this type of tactic. I don't exactly like it. I was reading an article a while ago that says that your new iPhone may cost $3,500 once they're made here in America. I mean, you kinda knew that was happening anyways because every single year with the introduction of a new cell phone, they go up 500 freaking dollars to the point that I'm about to go back to a damn flip phone. This is starting to get a little stupid and ridiculous with all the needing the technology in my hand at all times. Um, but it's look at the dichotomy of what's going on. You don't want the smart devices because you know they're spying on you. You have to have the smart devices if you want to exist in this modern world and have some form of efficiency when it comes to documentation, internet service, the text messaging, the phone calls, the emails. This is the age that we live in. Everything's, faster, 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 and I want all the information in my hand sooner than, later. And apparently it may start costing us quite a bit. US Supreme Court backs Donald Trump on deportations under the 1798 law. So we obviously saw over the past week, you have federal judges, district court judges, lower court judges who are issuing out very bizarre orders to the point that they think they can tell the executor of the president in office, what he can do with his presidential powers. A judge does not have the ability to tell a president what he can do and can't do in terms of protecting this nation. That is Congress, who's supposed to be the checks and balances. Legislators should be the checks and balances of the executive. And obviously, the judicial, the Supreme Court, really, I mean, they're just bought and paid for lawyers who get put in this exalted seat. And every now and then they do something good for Americans. And every now and then, they completely backfire and do something retarded. So that's just another stupid thing we're dealing with now. New White House tip line to report immigrants bombarded with calls to arrest Elon Musk. Elon Musk and his Doge department announced last week that apparently they're about to go on a witch hunt and they're going to start skimming through congressional members, so the Senate, Congress, Republicans, Democrats, and they're gonna start figuring out how these people are making more money than what they're supposed to be issued as a government employee. Is that actually gonna work? Is anything gonna be uncovered from it? Are they gonna be stopped? I don't know, but it's gonna shake up quite a bit. Not that I think anyone here would disagree that we would all like to know who's paying our elected representatives that we're paying to be there to sponsor us and our needs, though I really don't think that the I don't think that any of the politicians do that anymore. The politicians, from my askewed, jaded, overly opinionated point of view, the politicians have found a way to be elected and to become millionaires in a year and get all the little hookups, and then they start to becoming the bag boys for these special interest groups or for, outside entities who will come in as lobbyists, and then they will pay them, "Hey, can you put this need of ours on your next introductory bill into the Senate or into the House?" And they pay these people for themselves to get in onto the, uh, onto the congressional books so that they can get insider trading, so that they can get all the extra permits, so they can get all the stuff they need to either fund their billionaire playboy mansions or to help fund the military industrial complex and all the other industrial complexes to go with it. But you and I don't think, have the honest representation anymore that's needed in Congress. There's a brother that I met last week, named Kevin. Um, he's part of a organization called Tactical Civics. I gotta work on our interview, but hopefully before the end of this week, I will put our interview up. And you'll get to hear this conversation that me and him have about civics, about what Americans should be doing, what we should be, especially Christians, what we should be doing, how we can affect the political status around us, how can we be assets and not liabilities, how can we be beneficial to communities. It's a general conversation on mindsets and where things are progressively going. I mean, at the end of the day, you can plan for all the things in the world, but just know that Jesus is coming back. And somewhere in between now and the return of our Lord, be ready to get punched in the mouth. Have that Mike Tyson mindset that the moment you get punched in the mouth with whatever it is that happens, you better have a plan to respond. If it's a destroyed economy, you better have a plan to respond to it. If it's a next pandemic, you better have a plan to respond to it. If it is war in these United States, you better have a plan to respond to it, to act accordingly during that time. Because the one thing, the one entity that you cannot rely upon to do its job in a steady state where we're not in a war is this government. So, the government is not there to help you. The government is there to ensure the government of the United States is always functioning. And everything that goes out from that, 20 tentacled monster, they look after those needs that help the government, not us. They just need our tax money, but they're not coming for us. Over the weekend, met a dear brother named Tate, and he lives over in North Carolina near Asheville. And on his side of the mountain that he lived on, he was very much spared by Hurricane Helene. On the other side of the mountain, he said currently there is still hundreds, if not thousands, of people lined up down the road, still living in tents. Still living in tents. So I asked him, is the government there? Is Donald Trump and his people there? Are they fixing this horrific situation? Are they there for we the people? Are they taking care of the people? He said no one's there. There's a couple church organizations that are still there. There's a couple volunteer organizations that are still there, but for the most part, It's the people that are there that are having to deal with this are also self-rescuing, self-rebuilding. He's a general contractor, and he said that one of the corrupt things that North Carolina recently did, and I don't recall the program, I don't recall the acronym of it, but all the bids that would go out, all right, from the state to the contractors to where they can go out, repair the roads, repair the bridges, repair this, repair that. Instead of going to the people that's local on the ground who knows the area, they know the people, they'll have the most amount of insight and resources because it's already there, doesn't have to be moved in. They're not getting first shot at helping to rebuild their own communities. Instead, it's going to out of state contractors, and then they get brought in. And if they want a piece of that, then they have to go and then be a subcontractor for out of state contractors. Does this make sense to anyone? That's what I'm talking about. This government, which is supposed to be for the people, by the people, for we the people, has forgotten its place. So, moving forward, take all this knowledge and understand very, very carefully what I'm about to say. The community is what is most needed right now in terms of preparation. I don't know if you can get your community together and start having these general conversations. I don't know if you can get your mayor together, your police chief, and your sheriff together to start having these general community leader conversations. Most of the time, everyone's so polarized of some sort of bipartisan need, nobody wants to meet together. But it needs to happen. It's the way it used to be. We need to go back to it. The problem is there's so much autonomy now in the government. The DA and the judge don't wanna talk to anybody because they think they rule everyone. The mayor is, typically, some brought-in millionaire who's helping to manage something. Sheriff's department don't trust anyone, don't wanna listen to anyone. Police department don't trust anyone, don't wanna listen to anyone. The state police do whatever the governor's told them to do. So, ergo, I go back to this. Communities, start to figure out how to take care of yourself. Before we get into this next hurricane season, you already know some things that you need to be doing. You need to be preparing for the water, for the food to go out, not having fresh water, running out of food, the batteries, the flashlights, the radios, signaling devices. Will most likely, we'll just go ahead and put a few different things up. It'll all be on the Vindicta Solutions channel. So right here, our as you see our little shirt, the Training Solutions channel. We're gonna start posting a lot of information on there, anywhere from what are different things that you can use to signal aircraft, to different types of radios that you can be using that are very easy to buy, where to buy them. I'll just go ahead and tell you, easy place to buy radios is Amazon, but you don't always know what you're getting. For me, honestly, all of my stuff I get right from ready-made resources because I know what they're buying, I know where it comes from, I know they're doing their due diligence to make sure they're not getting a bunch of fake knockoff Chinese crap. Now, most of it is Chinese crap, but it's not the fake knockoff part, the world we live in. We're gonna be putting on some, demonstrations of how to shoot properly, with pistol and with rifle. One of the biggest things that we saw this weekend was how people weren't finding their front sight post. They weren't, lining up their rear sight to their front sight, and they were just shooting all over the place, or they were squeezing the trigger, slapping the trigger. We're gonna start doing some breakdown videos of that. Hopefully, that will be helpful to people. Brooklyn bloodbath. NYPD shoots uncle armed with meat cleaver after 4 girls are stabbed. So, crime has not left. It hasn't gotten any better. In fact, it's going to continue to spiral out of control the hotter it gets. When the spring to summertime to fall happens, that's when we see the most amount of violence. That's when you see the most amount of rioting, protesting, and you better bet your butt that this summer we're going to see a summer of love again. If I'm wrong, great. If I'm right, hey, we kind of all expect it to happen, right? Be prepared for that. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend if you are a woman, um, you carry a gun concealed, take training, learn how to use that weapon properly. If you carry a weapon that you cannot manipulate, like let's say if you're a little bit older, your hands are a little bit frail, and you've got something like a Glock 19 or some sort of a automatic pistol where it has a slide that you have to pull back and forth. I know from my mom to my grandma to a bunch of other people that I've trained, they almost all have the issue of trying to manipulate that weapon, especially if you have a malfunction, changing the magazines. If it is easier for you to shoot a revolver and it's, really easy, really quick, you can reload it very simply, and you're not sitting here having to fidget and fumble around with it, you better start carrying a revolver. Oh, I say this because especially, like, in the training that we're gonna be putting on next month, which is our CQB course, our Shoot, Move, Communicate course, the whole training is based off of putting you into a situation that, for the most part, we're gonna put you in a situation where you're going to fail, you're going to come across something scary, you're gonna come across people that are intimidating, especially from our role players. So the object goal here is to put you face to face with another person, typically a man who's bigger than you, so that you can go ahead and start learning how to fight back against that before you get surprised out in the real world on the street and you've got no idea what to do except just to respond. So if you've got any, questions for that, please email us. You can go to vindictasolutions.com. You can learn all about that training. You can go to the Vindicta Solutions YouTube page and you can see the training that we document, that we put on, and you can see what it is that people are dealing with. If that's something that the Lord puts onto your heart that says, hey, if you're going to carry the sword, you might want to learn how to use it. Please give us a try. Next training is coming up next month. You can go to vindictasolutions.com. You can see when the training dates are. Cost is $800 because everything else has gone up. Unfortunately, we had to go up with our prices, but I promise you, it's the most intense 2.5 days you've probably ever experienced. We have a lot of couples who come through there. We have a lot of elderly people who come through there. We got a lot of young shooters, who this would be their first time even actually touching a gun. We've had people come through the training who don't even own a gun, but they want to learn gun self-defense first before they go and acquire the gun. So it's built for everyone. We've got anyone from a person with no experience to a person with a tremendous amount of experience, SWAT team guys that'll come through, and everybody gets a little bit of something out of it. If you're interested, watch some of our videos, go to our website, or you can email me. Everything will be in the comments once this video is processed. So you can email me and we'll reach out to you. All right, moving forward on the US border, as the US Mexico land border tightens, focus turns to dangerous sea crossings. The sea crossings are something that we'll probably never not have, especially from places like Cuba or Haiti. It's extraordinarily dangerous to cross the Atlantic and then into the Gulf of America. I'm so used to saying Gulf of Mexico. And you see a lot of these banana style boats that are holding 90 people. There's a lot of times where those boats capsize. They, they leak with water, and unfortunately, you can see 80 to 90 people on a boat that shouldn't hold 10 drowned. And it's very common, especially as the border tightens on the land. The most porous border then would be from the shore. So we'll probably see a lot more of that, unfortunately. 97 border-related arrests were made, in a week in Southern California, including 2 CBP agents that were arrested. Gee, I wonder what they did. Over in Europe, Russian, spy sensors have found, tracking UK's nuclear submarines. So, I mean, the nuclear submarines right now from every country that has one, they're out in the water, they're patrolling everywhere. Eventually, and even Estonia right now, a little country Estonia is starting to do underwater, operations to defend their infrastructure under the water. That's the biggest threat. The biggest threat with these submarine operations right now is, like, especially Russia, going down to the seafloor, finding the pipelines that have all of our interconnected lines that go from America to Europe, and they're cutting them. Okay. So this has been a common theme. We deal with it constantly, but there will come a day where they cut these lines and then something else gets cut, and then we can't talk to each other anymore from America to Europe, our forces over there to our forces over here. And that's primarily what that line is. That line is mainly for internet and telecommunications. It's not all satellites. You still have to have ground based tethered lines for that high speed internet. And there's so many redundancies built into it. But once those cables start getting cut off and torn apart, I mean, that could be a declaration of war. So we'll see what's going on with that here eventually. Over in Ukraine and Russia, thousands of UK gas masks are being sent to Ukraine. Once again, I was just talking about gas masks. Um, This is the same gas mask that is all over the place. It's a Mira safe. I think this is their C. I can't remember which one it is. There's C, but I just got in my papper. So the box that's in this it pushes forced air into the mask, because if you got a beard, you can't have a proper seal. But it'll push forced air into this mask, which was then to be filtered. I typically carry either riot control filters or nuclear radiological, biological, chemical filters. I'll be attaching that to my plate carrier and going back to doing some old school gas mask training with it. I love being in a gas mask. I love using chemical warfare from my days of doing riot control operations. And I guess I should look forward to doing it as a civilian in the future, because that's just the way America appears to want to be going right now. Hence why I got that certain gas mask. If you have questions on gas masks or anything like that, don't call me, call Ready Made Resources. They'll have 10 times the information than I do. Zelensky over in Ukraine confirms for the first time that Ukrainian troops active in Russia's Belgorod region. So they're just now admitting that they're in Russia and they're doing operations in Russia. They've been doing it for months. Uh, Once again, the fact of the amount of self-control that has been shown by Russia is eerie. It's either eerie or all the world's a stage, and this is all part of some grand illusion scheme. Whichever way you take it, thousands of people on both lines of Russia and Ukraine are still dying every week. And Trump ran on the slogan of, within 24 hours of me becoming president, the war will stop between Ukraine and Russia. And then after he gets elected and he's in office, and it didn't stop in 24 hours. If anything, the attacks have increased over the past few months. He said, well, I was being sarcastic. Everyone knows it won't stop in a day. But that's how the man speaks. So for me, when I hear the man speak and he says these things, I just don't take his word for it anymore. Um, I've come to completely understand that politicians are either in so much control that they can feed you a hook and sinker, and the lie, when it does come out, doesn't even affect you anymore, or they are so much out of control that all the lies they say are just to trick you so that you will get on their good side or they'll get on your good side so you'll vote for them. I'm pretty sure I'm right in both those ways. Um, Over in the Middle East, Trump confirms Iranian talks for this Saturday and warns of great danger if they fail. So just today, I was listening to him sitting in the White House, and he said, we're going to talk with Iran. We're going to talk with their leadership. I hope to make a deal. He said, I hope to make Iran great again. He said that they absolutely cannot have nuclear weapons. And if the deal goes through, great. We're going to try and give them a lot of economic options and help out their country. But if the deal does not go through, then the only other thing that we have is the military, and I will bomb them. So, I know I've been warning about it for a couple years to the point that I just hate bringing it up, but Operation Nitro Zeus, it's on the table. That's why all the B-2 bombers are over there. Once again, the whole thought process of this operation is not another ground-based invasion like we did Iraq and Afghanistan, because up in the mountainous regions, which is like 80 to 90% of Iran, it's just not going to work like that. They are gonna do their best to bomb the mountainous regions of Iran to the point that either the mountain collapses in on top of their nuclear underground facilities, or they knock a big enough hole that we can eventually get down into it. Either way, when you bomb Iran, you have to stop and take into consideration a few things. For one, believe the threat that Iran can reach out and touch us. It's not from an ICBM. If anything, the ICBM is the last thing that I worry about. The way that these little countries, these little Islamic extremist countries can reach out and touch us is through their affiliated terrorists who are already here in this country. Iran put out a threat last winter that said anyone who comes to help aid Israel in striking us, we will activate our terrorists and they will go after your infrastructure, which typically means what? Your energy or something to do with liquid natural gas, oil pipelines. We brought up what happened in Mumbai, India last week with the 10-man attack team that activated and killed, well, I think 200, 300 people in within 72 hours. Do you not think they have more than 10 people here in America? Let's just take some figures. Okay, so the Islamic extremist, if you had 20 people who decided to do the same style of attack, that is already overwhelming for the average police department. The military will not be able to respond in time. It will be police departments because it's a policing operation who will have to respond to that. Now, let's say that happens in just one city. That's absolute chaos. But do you think that's all they have here in this country? They only got 10 or 20 terrorists. The thought process from a lot of the former CIA people that are out there and the FBI and DHS and all the other intel agencies, um, is that we would see that same style attack in, if not multiple states, then probably every state. That would be something that would be so chaotic, um, so condemning on those people that we would be forced to go back into full-time wartime operations into the Middle East. All right, so Iraq, Afghanistan wars 3.0 is right around the corner should we wanna mess around and find out. The other thing is, not only could they attack people, but they can attack infrastructure. So let's say these, 10-man teams, 100 people, decide that we're actually not gonna go and attack the churches, the schools. We're not gonna go attack the subway, the bus stations. We're not gonna go attack the Walmarts and Home Depots. We're gonna go find those 9 to 10 interconnected power stations that line up somewhere in the middle of the country that connect the East Coast to the West Coast. And our job is to go out and take those things down. And if successful, from West Coast to East Coast, we have no power. And all you have to do in this country at this rate is to go 48 to 72 hours without power, and these cities will most likely be on fire. Not from terrorism, but just from the ancillary actions of modern day domestic terrorists called Antifa, who never let a good thing go to waste, apparently, because that's what the Democrats want. From the cartels that are here, Antifa, the other different types of cells that are here. And let's go ahead and mention the elephant in the room, the estimated 10 million Chinese military-aged males who are here in this country. We have no idea where they are. We have no idea who they are. We have no idea what their intentions are, but they're here. We've all seen the videos. We've all heard the reports. The government will never give you a straight answer because they don't freaking know. But it's not hard to sit here and look at these numbers as they're being caught and then just start to do a little bit of guesstimations. If in the month of June last year or the year before when Biden was still in office, and there was 10,000 military-aged males that were caught on the Texas border, okay? Typically, what we thought on the border was whenever you catch 1, 3 go away. All right, 3 are gone. So, if that math is still anywhere accurate, then yeah, we caught 10,000, but 30,000 got into the country. So, over time, yeah, we caught 1,000,000, but 3,000,000 are in the country. Same thing for any group that's out there. So, we have no idea who's here. We have no idea what the intention is, but you live in a land that has a plethora of options for weaponry. During the 2020 riots, we were working a riot that was happening in Dallas, Texas. So, while we're out here defending federal buildings, our friends in Dallas SWAT are riding up and down, the road in their MRAP, their armored vehicle, throwing flashbangs and tear gas grenades at people. I think they threw 90 of them in just one night. We had, law enforcement officers showing up from all over the state. About 3 in the morning, I remember running into a game warden who just came in from Texarkana. That's like 4 hours away. So we have all this law enforcement bear down onto Dallas. Now, there was probably about 6 to 7,000 protesters, peacefully protesting, right? Setting a bunch of stuff on fire and throwing freaking bricks at us and shooting guns in the air. Um, right outside of Dallas proper, there was a big gun store. Now, you'll probably still find it if you search for this, but we got the heads up from our government email from the locals, the Dallas PD, that there was a gun store that was hit and 30 rifles to include, you know, everything that can go with it were stolen. So AR-15s and AR-10s. Well, AR-10 shoots a 308 or could shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor. That's a big damn round to come screaming at you in your vest that's not meant to stop it. So, if that happens in one night while you have a crowd of idiots that's distracting all the law enforcement, and the goal is actually to get someone in to go steal a bunch of rifles, I'm just saying, there's multiple things that can happen should our enemies from outside this country talk to our enemies that are inside this country. You could have a multifaceted attack. Attack the people at vulnerable places. Go to the schools, go to the hospitals, go to the amphitheaters, go out to the parks, go out to workstations, go out to 5 o'clock dead stop traffic, hit Walmart, hit Home Depot. And then while you're doing that, this team over here, you start attacking the grid. This team over there, you start hitting all the different gun stores. And it doesn't take an idiot to put stuff like this together and to be extraordinarily effective. And if anything, mass chaos is the friend of the terrorists. So being prior law enforcement, I can tell you we're gonna go to where the most available threat is. So if they're downtown and they're killing people, everybody's coming. That's a for the most part, the active shooter response, policy that's wrote in from local, state to federal, law enforcement policies is if you're within 100 miles of an active shooter and you can respond, you shall respond. All right. So you draw in enough people and you leave all these other vulnerable things, and then these cells pop up here and there. It just becomes a nightmare to try and think of logistically, how do I position people? And I sincerely hope that our friends that are in law enforcement from local, state, and federal, you're planning for these events. You already know we don't have enough people. You already know the politicians are going to do their best to put their thumb in their nose and to slow down our policing actions. besides the fact that nobody trusts us anymore anyways. Um, it's gonna be very difficult for law enforcement. That's why it is on you as a civilian. If you've got a gun, carry it. Please know how to use that gun. Learn good, proper gun safety. Make sure you have good, uh, basic fundamentals of marksmanship so that you hit what you aim at, because you are responsible legally and liably for every single bullet that comes out of that barrel. It's got your name on it. It's got a case control number already attached to it. So make sure you know who you're shooting at if you have to defend yourself, and know how to freaking shoot. Um, it's not a strange concept, but we only had 5 people show up at our training this weekend when we could offer, we offered it up to 20 people, but only 5 people showed up. And, you know, it just is what it is. Every time we put on any type of training, and I talked to a bunch of different instructors from a bunch of different training, areas around this country, everybody experiences the same thing. We can hold so many people, and a quarter of it are the ones who show up. So, for the quarter of you out here that are listening, you're the ones who train, you're the ones who are carrying your guns. Do not forget your medical, because if you're the one who has to give any type of assistance, most likely you're going to be the only one who also knows how to do anything medical, unless you're lucky enough to have a doctor or, a freaking nurse around. I try to harp on this, especially for the men. It is your responsibility to be the protectors. It is not your responsibility to only be responsible for eating potato chips and drinking beer and going fishing. You have to be able to protect your family. Outside of that, if it does fall into your lap that you're the only guy with the gun at the convenience store that day, what do you do? Do you run out and save yourself, or do you protect the innocent from the wicked? Everybody has a different choice for that, I guess. All right, oil prices hit a 4-year low in the Middle East, and experts debate what will happen now. Florida woman pries open an alligator's mouth to alligator's jaws to save her dog. If you live in an area where the still remaining dinosaurs are, from Texas to Florida, um, beware of walking your dog next to the water. I don't know. People don't learn, I guess. Venezuela says it uncovered U.S. plot to fabricate an incident and justify an invasion from the U.S. military into Venezuela. Currently, Trump is tariffing countries that are buying pretty much anything, especially oil, from Venezuela. So we're already trying to do a blockade type of operation on Venezuela to try and strangle it of any type of economic recovery or growth. That's not good. We all remember when Trump was president the first time, he tried to overthrow Nicolas Maduro. There were absolutely American assets that were there trying to stir the pot in Venezuela. Now, I am no friend of Nicolas Maduro. He's out there killing his people left and right and starving them while he's eating steak dinners. But I don't know how else to relate to this. We meddle in everyone's business. There's not a country that does not have our assets in it doing something, all for the benefit of America. And one day it's gonna backfire really bad. Trump just put out, he said that he was raising the reward on Maduro for whatever it was recently to now $30 million if someone will capture Maduro and hand him over. Hand him over to who? And who the heck is gonna travel down to Venezuela to capture this guy when he has a standing army that follows him everywhere? All of this is just to try and fuel dissent and conflict in his own country. I thought he was the Prince of Peace. Isn't that the award that the Jews gave him recently? A sect of Jews gave Trump an award last year. I think it's a 30-pound silver crown, and it's titled Prince of Peace. Well, he's starting a lot of dang conflicts and possible wars in places to be the Prince of Peace. Venezuelan military is now placed on alert, says it fears that the United States will use tensions with Guyana to invade it. There's probably some truth to that. Over in Ecuador, uh, anti-drug operations mounts up, overseen by Blackwater founder. Blackwater founder Eric Prince has joined the security operation in Ecuador. I don't know if I disagree with that or if I agree with it. I have become such an isolationist that I've almost gotten to the point where I'm like, really think we should just like worry about ourselves and not everybody else. Could Blackwater be helping? Well, it's not Blackwater anymore, but could those type of resources be used here in America, help track down illegal human trafficking and drug smuggling, and work in Congress with law enforcement? Why do we ship out our warriors all around the world, but yet we are vulnerable and we are in a constant state of civil unrest? Makes no sense to me. South of the border, Secretary of Defense Hegseth has arrived in Panama amid Trump's pressure to reduce Chinese influence. He's out there saying, the Chinese did not build the Panama Canal. They will not operate it. It is not theirs. It is America's. Argentina poverty rate has fallen in boost to Malay. Over in Colombia, a rebel group begins hanging or handing over arms to the government. In Haiti, the Dominican Republic boosts security on border with crisis-ridden Haiti. Haiti, once again, man, is out of control. It is the future of every democratic city in America is to eventually look like Haiti. The Haitian government is turning to paramilitary groups that it once sought to stage a coup to fight the gangs now. This same group is known as Brigade for the Security of Protected Areas. So if you want to do any research on it, that's who they are. Over in Asia, China slaps a 34% tax on all U.S. imports in retaliation for Trump's tariffs. Trump threatens to impose an additional 50% tariff on China, which he did today. South Korea court ousts the President Yoon, triggering a election process. South Korea, if you didn't know this, has arrested or killed every single one of its presidents since becoming officially South Korea. Over in Africa, Mali accuses Algeria of sponsoring terror after downing drones. Burkina Faso reinstates a coup, convicts to bolster fight against insurgencies. Chinese ambassador reaffirms government's commitment to boost Chinese investments in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is in a damn war zone right now. Israel and Arab war. Trump and Netanyahu hold White House talks on tariffs, Gaza, and Iran. Recently, I think this was yesterday, it was yesterday or the day before, Netanyahu's over there at the White House, and he's telling our president, you cannot allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. So the whole piece of this pie is Israel and America are eventually going to be in cahoots for attacking Iran if Iran does not give up its nuclear processors. Um, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Iran is going to stop anything that they're doing. Maybe they'll find a way to negotiate. Maybe they'll say, yeah, we can let some US guys over here. You can see we're not building any type of missiles. We'll see, because anything that we do between now and then has to be approved. They can move stuff everywhere. You're not going to get access to everything. We know how this works. Over in New Zealand eyes defense spending boost to 2% of their GDP. New Zealand is also getting ready for potentially protecting its islands against the incursions from China. All right, getting into some of the other information. Now, I can't verify this, so it's rumor. It just is what it is. There have been reports that the Taliban has relinquished control of the Bagram Air Force Base to the U.S. Reports indicate a visit by a U.S. C-17 aircraft carrying military equipment and senior intelligence officials that have arrived, including the deputy director of the CIA. However, these reports have not been officially confirmed, and the Taliban have outright denied them. The AMU TV cited three reliable sources, including a Taliban official in Kandahar and its reports on Sirajuddin Haqqani meeting with U.S. delegations during his recent visit to the United Arab Emirates. The Taliban recently withdrew from the Bagram Air Base after receiving payments from the U.S. government. Shortly after, a large number of US 17 aircraft carrying military vehicles arrived at the base, indicating a possible US move to retake Bagram. Now, if that's true, then the reason why they want to retake Bagram because it's an air base is because they need another launching platform to be able to hit Iran. So Israel's on this side, Afghanistan's on this side. Iran is smack dab in the middle. We're going to hit them from both sides. That's the way it appears. Trump and Pete Hegseth tout a $1 trillion U.S. defense budget deal. I thought we were saving money. I thought that's the whole thing Trump was doing. We're going to be here saving money. We're spending money freaking left and right. Donald Trump said his administration had approved a defense budget in the vicinity of $1 trillion. Where the hell is this money coming from? When do we, the American people, get to decide we don't want to continuously fund everybody's freaking war? We want that money to be here for us. What about our tax reliefs? What about getting rid of the IRS? What about rebuilding the homes that have been destroyed by people from the wildfires from California, South Carolina, North Carolina recently? What about rebuilding homes and putting maybe like 50 to 100 G's in the bank accounts of people who lost everything in Hurricane Helene? Don't tell me it can't be done because we're giving the Taliban $67 million a week. Why is it that we put so much faith into politicians who do everything in their favor possible to send our hard-earned money that they ain't making, but they're printing as fast as possible to everyone else around the world, except back into the pockets of we the people? The system is broken. I'll repeat, the system's broken. And for all you people who voted for Donald Trump, this is what you voted for. You voted for more wars. You voted for the tariffs. You voted that this man is going to come in, he's going to fix the country. Did you agree to the us buying Gaza or taking Gaza? Did you agree to us continuing to fund Ukraine and Zelensky to continue the war there so more people could die? Did you agree for us to go to war with Iran? Did you agree for us to give Israel $1 trillion freaking dollars to beef up you know, their defense apparatus? What about us? We don't have an Iron Dome. We don't have anything. In fact, let me tell you about the Golden Dome. This whole Golden Dome uh, anti-ballistic missile defense project, from the last time I read about this, is that their goal is to put, if not hundreds, but thousands of satellites at geosync orbit, so low Earth orbit, uh, basically the same vicinity as to where you see the International Space Station or you see Elon Musk's satellites going back and forth called Starlink. And we're going to have our ballistic missiles on a satellite pointed at our enemies. And the moment we think we see a launch, which that's already kind of not good because they're going to put artificial intelligence in these missile defense systems. So as long as the Skynet thinks that it's seeing a launch and not just a large bonfire or something, then the moment it sees the fire from the missile, it launches a missile and hits that missile upon liftoff, which is the most sensitive part of the 3 stages of the rockets. How bad and how quick can this go? What do you think China and Russia and everyone else would say if they said, "Hey, man, um, so, like, our nukes are underground. I know we take them out every now and we say that we're gonna hit you with them, but yours is in the sky above me. I'm looking at it, and it's pointed right down at me. So if you can do that, I can do that, and don't you dare tell me I can't do that." Do you see the type of consequences this can come to eventually? America seems to think we control the world. We can do whatever we want because we're America, the hammer of the whole earth now, 2.0. And if you do anything we don't like, well, we'll come and deliver some freedom to you. Eventually, eventually, America is going to find someone bigger and badder than them. Or we're going to have to fight 3 or 4 people at one time. And I don't care how badass you think you are. Eventually, we get knocked out. I'm sorry for swearing, but it's come to the point to where the stupidity of our politicians is going to get all of us. That means if you're the green and pink haired leftist who thinks you're a girl today, from that person to the little old lady down the street who's always voted Republican her whole life, we're all in this country together. We're all in this world together. And these people and the hubris of these politicians can get us all in a lot of trouble very fast. Now, we know no matter what, calm down. God is in control. And everything that is happening right now, God allows to happen. So, on the one hand, I can scream and yell about the stupidity of politicians and the greed of man. And on the other hand, I just have to go, God's allowing it. So praise the name of the Lord, I guess. He's in total control. It's why I don't fear. It's why I can sleep at night. It's why I don't live in a freaking bunker under the ground or a compound out in the freaking mountains with a bunch of other people, because God is inevitably at all times in control. There's not an entity or a person on this earth that gets away with anything that our dear Lord does not see or approve. Now, take that however you want. It is what it is. The world is the Lord's, and everything on it is the Lord's. A lot of this stuff gets used for testing for us of our faith. A lot of it gets used for smiting the wicked, and he'll use the wicked to smite the wicked. And scattered amongst the nations of these wicked nations are also his people. So have some common sense. Just know you live in almost perilous times, but not yet. We're not there yet. China will launch an invasion of Taiwan in the next few months, says Intel sources. Intel sources. Intel sources who have spoken to 1945 state that they believe an attempt by China to invade Taiwan is no less than 6 months away. We hear this every couple of months. They're just a couple months away from invading, but they don't. For me and my mindset, the moment we start to bomb Iran, um, and other countries start to not become our friends anymore, and America starts to go wayward with all the terrorism that'll happen in this country, yeah, that's probably when Taiwan will be taken over. Russia has launched a new skimming satellite, launched into geostationary orbit on March 2023, appears to be continuing to maneuver around Western telecommunications satellites, approaching a new target on every average, a new target on average every 4 months, apparently with the goal of tracking the telecommunications satellites. So we've known in the government for a while that while we have all of our fancy satellites up there for GPS and internet and spying and all that, and some missile defense platforms, that China and Russia have been sending up satellites that are just kinda like in hibernation in geoseek orbit, and the day they awaken those things up, they're gonna go straight to a satellite that has something to do with communications for the military, for the government, and it's taking it out. So, that's the thing. As much as we have plans for taking over other countries and for wanting to implement our rule on everybody, God has lifted up other nations to give them technology and industry to put their satellites in the sky so that the day we start to do it to other people, it's gonna happen right freaking back to us. Iran's foreign minister and Trump's special envoy Witkoff will be the main negotiators at the indirect talks in Oman on Saturday. I don't know how well that's gonna go, but pray for peace, prepare for war. Ukraine must cede territory in any peace deal, says Rubio. The Secretary of State heading to talks with Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia said future talks with Moscow will be needed to determine what Russia is willing to give up to end the war. So, do you think currently in Ukraine they will let go of any territory at all in order to appease Russia to stop the war? I'd love to hear your thought on that. Far from being cowed by US strikes, Yemen's Houthi rebels may be relishing them. If you could only see the ridiculous picture that I'm looking at right now from the Houthi rebels. So I see sabers, AKs, what looks like bolt action rifles. Hey, look, there's an AK with a red dot on it. And a bunch of knives. One guy is holding a pruning saw for like a grapevine, and they're all like, "Yeah!" And everyone has guns and knives and swords, and there's an axe, and then the one guy who has a saw for pruning limbs. Despite U.S. strikes on Yemen's Houthis, they cannot be dealt with without a ground operation, says CNN. Any analysts estimate that up to 80 Houthi officers have been killed, but the top echelon of the military and political leadership appears unscathed. And also, so do many of the missile launch sites. Since mid March, the Houthis have launched a dozen ballistic missiles into Israel and have also unleashed a barrage of drones and missiles on U.S. Navy ships. And it was coming out today that the Houthis just shot down another one of our MQ-9 Reaper drones. So I believe that's 10 drones that have been shot down by them. That's only like 30 to 60 million dollars for that drone. We'll just build another one, right? It's just money. It's just your money. It's just my money. The Houthis not only were not afraid of the US strikes, but also threatened to expand the range of their targets. Quote, there is no doubt that the U.S. campaign has weakened the Houthis' capabilities, but history shows that the Houthis have an unusually high tolerance for pain, and the Trump administration's determination to root out the threat they pose may ultimately require a ground offensive. Absolutely. Ground offensive. Can't wait. Sign your sons and daughters up. Let's go back to the Middle East. It is a ever revolving door for our politicians and for the military industrial complex to find some Middle Eastern country that we need to go and send our young men and women into so they can get thrown into the freaking meat grinder again and bomb them back to Babylon. I don't get it. What happened to peace? What happened to peace? But you all understand. You who read the Bible with me, you understand. They're going to cry out for peace and safety. Sudden destruction is going to come. We know that eventually these wars are going to be so climatic, they're going to be everywhere. It's not going to stop. And to the point that we all think we're all about to die, a strange man is going to come onto the scene, the Antichrist. And he'll put a war, or he'll put an end to the wars. He'll have an accord with many, a peace meeting with many, and we'll get a little bit of reprieve, and then he turns his back on it, turns his back on the treaty, attacks the entire world, and in comes Jesus. So I guess look forward to it. The Houthi survival is aided by an elaborate smuggling network that brings in missile parts, drones, and other equipment. Regional diplomatic sources and analysts say that ultimately only a ground offensive can dislodge the Houthis, who currently control Yemen's capital. Now, the whole reason for why we want to go to war with Iran, not only just because Israel told us to, but because all of the Shia related Muslims, the radicals, are part of ISIS, Al Qaeda, Taliban, um, the Houthi rebels, uh, Turkey, Erdogan. All of them want war. They absolutely want the death of Israel and America, and they're not going to stop. It's an ideology. You can bring the entire US Marine Corps there, and we can wipe them all out, just like we've done before. Now, the Army was there for a bit, apparently. That's a jab to all you Army veterans out there. Thank you for your service. But no matter what you do, you can't wipe out this ideology. All right. Satan's claws are so deep on these people. They literally think their God tells them to go out and hurt people so that the 13th Mahdi can come back. I mean, that's what we fight. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with powers, principalities, and powers of the air. That's why we shouldn't hate these people. We should pray for these people. You hate the sin, but these people, they grew up in a lifestyle where if they were never introduced to Jesus, they think God, Allah, is the same God of ours, though sometimes they'll tell you different. They're doing exactly what they were raised to do, what their little book tells them to do. And it just shows you, man, the the hooks of the devil are in on everyone around this world, to especially to attack little Israel, because that is God's people, God's nation. I think if the Islamists actually attacked Israel again and were able to take it, they wouldn't know what the heck to do with it. Walk around and parade, and that's the craziness that they do. But Satan's overall goal is to turn anyone and everyone against themselves, to turn anyone and everyone against followers of our Lord Jesus Christ, and then to turn the whole world against Israel, to include Israel. That's why you have the synagogue of Satan. That's why we have so many different climactic conversations about should we support Israel? Should we not support Israel? Who's the good guys? Who's the bad guys? Are they all bad? Are they the real Jews? I'm telling you, if you want to see Satan at work, just listen to these conversations because you can read the Bible and clearly understand they're the people, it's the real Israel, it's their language. Freaking get over it. Or don't believe the Bible and question everything and believe every rumor that's out there and have fun getting lost down that rabbit hole. I take the Bible verbatim, literally. What the devil wants you to do is question everything to the point that you don't know what is true, what is accurate. Um, and then he starts to put those little fiery darts in your mind and he starts to turn your hard against people. It's a terrible thing. Trust only in the Lord. Put only your hope and faith in God, my friends. I have no other good answers for you on anything else. In regard to Iran, um, they have what is considered to be missile cities. All right. So Iran, which is mainly mountainous, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 underground missile cities where they're developing missiles. Some of this is also where the nuclear facilities are from. The Zagros mountain range. is one of them. That's the one that's facing Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. But any way you try to slice it, there's no direct route into Iran to fight this place. It's just as rugged a land as Afghanistan is. So, and look what happened. It took us 20 years to not even conquer it. It took us 20 years, and still those people are fighting back against us. And I mean, they're using the cheapest, oldest equipment possible. Iran's not them. Iran, their army, in my opinion, is a joke. But they have very um, elite equipment. They have the Su-500 anti-air weapon system, which is, I would think, if you're a pilot, that would be the most terrifying thing that you can come across with. Because if I'm correct, the Su-500 surface-to-air missile system can travel 2,000 miles. That's pretty freaking dangerous, and it's a hypersonic missile. That's why with Operation Nitro Zeus, it is understood we're gonna lose 80% of all forces who participate in that operation just to be able to breach, the territory and to start the bombing runs. You're probably gonna get hit, drop your bombs, and then crash. Who wants to volunteer for that? Of course, you all get voluntold, you don't get volunteered when you're in the military. In the case of a United States attack on Iran, the Deputy Foreign Minister of Russia, Andrei Rudenko, said that Moscow would not be obligated to provide military assistance to Tehran. So that's very interesting that that's being said now. It could obviously be a bluff. Don't believe anything anymore. Strange thing Trump did again recently. He said, congratulations to Turkey. I told Erdogan, you did what no one has done in 2,000 years. You took control of Syria. So he says he likes Erdogan. They're buddies, they're friends, they talk all the time. They always had a really good relationship. There's a video of Erdogan. I can't play it because if I play it, um, I'm just gonna get tore up by YouTube. But Um, Erdogan's sitting there saying, death to Israel, may Allah destroy our enemies, blah, blah, blah. And this is the art of the deal with Trump. Everyone's his buddy, everyone's his friend, everyone can negotiate with him. You cannot negotiate with these people. It is in their blood to destroy Israel. I don't see I don't see the art of the deal fixing this one. And not only that, he's congratulating Turkey. Which, if you're gonna say Turkey helped to do this, then that's also Al Qaeda and ISIS who helped to take over Syria, who's currently killing Christians. So why you would ever say such a bizarre statement as that? I don't know. You'll know them by their fruits. Trump said, I told Netanyahu that Israelis must act rationally to resolve any problems with Turkey. Rationality, that's what the Islamic extremists are all about. Trump says that they will call Gaza the freedom zone after the population is transferred from it. The freedom zone. Yeah, a lot of freedom. Iranian officials said that they would not agree under any circumstances to an American demand to dismantle the entire nuclear program. It's coming from Amir Safardi or Sarfati, however the Persians pronounce their words. Iran officials said that they would not agree to any circumstances for Americans to demand a dismantle of the entire nuclear program. Quote, our defense is non negotiable. How can Tehran dismantle the nuclear program when Israel has nuclear warheads? Who will protect us if Israel or other countries attack us? Fair point. Once again, imagine someone coming to America and saying, you are going to completely disarm all of your military and your most top tier elite weaponry that protects your nation from anyone wanting to mess with you, you're going to have it all destroyed. Uh, we wouldn't do it. I wouldn't expect Iran to do it. The USS Carl Vinson and its strike group are heading through the Indian Ocean now towards CENTCOM, becoming the second U.S. carrier group in the Middle East, putting nearly a quarter of the U.S. Navy's deployable power in the region. Iran says Iran will be negotiating under heavy pressure. That's the goal here. Trust the plan, right? Trust the plan. All right, let's get rid of the last part of this sit rep and then call it a night. All right, so Israel and Iran. Several powerful Iranian-backed militia groups in Iraq are prepared to disarm for the first time to avert the threat of escalating conflict with the United States administration. They're scared to death. Trump's going to bomb them all. Uh, Israel is preparing for a possible strike on Iran, believes it can hit Iran's nuclear sites, missile systems, and Air Force assets. Israel may need U.S. approval, refueling support, and important munitions, said Yadat Aronot. Yadat Aronot report is surprising in that Israel is no longer seeking a joint U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran, and that Israel may try to go it alone. Israel only requests from the United States to, quote, push for a tougher nuclear deal after the attack. After the attack. And that's coming from an Israeli government official. Censorship confirms that Israel is preparing for a combined missile attack from Iran and the Iranian proxies. That's from a local Channel 12 from Israel. My assessment is that the U.S. military is using Yemen as a testing base in preparation for an attack on Iran, says Ben Zion Meckles, Israeli geoanalyst for Channel 14. President Trump's tariffs are tearing apart the global economy, says Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada. Negotiations with other countries, which have also requested meetings, will begin taking place immediately, says Donald Trump. New statement from President Trump calls for people to not be weak and stupid, coins a new political party, the Panicans, for said weak and stupid people. What about gullible people? What about sin-filled people who love money? We'll just give ourselves a pass, won't we? Swedish teens are now being recruited by gangs to exploit the security apparatus of Sweden by Iran. Kids in Sweden as young as 14 are being used in violent attacks targeting Israeli interests, recruited by local gangs, allegedly acting at Iran's direction, according to Swedish intelligence. Gangs like Foxtrot and Roomba are exploiting minors using social media to coach them into shootings and attempted bombings, often with no idea who's pulling the strings. To caveat off of that, parents, I'm sure what I'm about to say has been told you before. If your child is under the age of 18, do not let them have a social media account. I don't care, me personally, if you want to keep your kid as safe as possible from all different types of threats in the world, do not let them have a freaking social media account. They don't need to be sharing anything. I don't know what all they had to share, but I was watching a live a couple days ago, and there was a what appeared to be a couple children that were in the live comment section, and it was a S2 intelligence show, and they were just sitting there saying really inappropriate things and saying, "Well, I'm 14, I'm 15, I don't know why, any of this pertains to me." And I'm just asking myself, what is a 14 or 15-year-old doing watching an intelligence analyst give his briefing on what he thinks is happening in the Middle East? Watch your kids. Their success is either your success or your fault. I mean, inevitably, you take the the brunt of the blame for whatever it is they do. So avoid heartaches, freaking get rid of social media. Um, President Trump's tariffs are tearing apart the global economy. Once again, we got that. Israeli left wing journalist Barak Ravid says Prime Minister Netanyahu will provide President Trump with a quote, good Iranian nuclear deal that's acceptable for Israel. Acceptable for Israel, not for Iran. Ravid's comments confirmed that Yedot Aronot report, where Israel may actually strike Iran alone, but insists that the U.S. pushes for a strong nuclear deal after the attacks happen. All right. News on Trump. If talks with Iran aren't successful, I think Iran will be in great danger. That's a direct quote from Donald Trump. Now, Uh, besides the everyday terrorist attack, I don't know what the nation of Iran has done to me that wants me to go over there and bomb them, but I don't know. After being in a war zone 3 times and serving, I think, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, after severing all these people, I no longer care about their opinions or their wars anymore. I'm just kinda getting kinda tired of this. Iran will be in great danger if it does not make a deal, says Trump. We cannot allow them to get nuclear weapons. Trump says, I love Erdogan and he loves me. If Israel has a problem with Turkey, I think I can work it out. Congratulations to Turkey. I told Erdogan, you did what no one has done in 2,000 years. You took control of Syria. Will he say that when they try to take control of Israel? Russia, China, and Iran are set to meet in Moscow April 7th to 8th, so that meeting's already done to discuss Iran's nuclear issue. Trump says that they are set to meet Iran this Saturday for a very high level meeting. Iran will be allowed to maintain a civilian nuclear program for electricity generation purposes, according to Trump's plan, but no military program. Coming from the Jerusalem Post, Barak Ravid said this on Twitter. Netanyahu said in a video released by his office before departing for Washington back to Israel that a nuclear deal with Iran would be acceptable only if it included the explosion, quote, explosion of all Iran's nuclear facilities and the dismantling of all equipment under American supervision and implemented by Americans. He noted that if that does not happen and Iran drags out the talks, a military option should be used. Quote, everyone understands that. I discussed this at length with President Trump. Good old Netanyahu stirring the pot. China has now been increased to 104% tariffs. So can't wait for us to all pay extra for everything. Trump to hold a surprise military parade on June 14th. The curiously timed event would be marking both the Army's 250th anniversary and Trump's 79th birthday. Local officials are reportedly only now being informed and unlikely to oppose the decision. Does anyone else think it's comical that like only dictators do these type of military parades anymore? And here we are, we're going to do a military parade. Uh, Donald Trump issues orders that the United States has announced an increase in the reward to $30 million dollars for the capture of Nicolas Maduro. United States revokes a license that allowed Trinidad and Tobago to exploit gas with Venezuela. The EU will have to commit to buying $350 billion dollars of American energy to get a reprieve from the sweeping tariffs, says Donald Trump. Trump says, we're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals. We're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals. Great. As of 2022, China accounted for 6% of the U.S. pharmaceutical imports regarding finished goods like packaged medicaments and vaccines. The reliance on China is much more pronounced for active pharmaceutical ingredients. While exact figures aren't available per se, historical estimates from sources like the FDA suggest that China supplies a significant portion, potentially 40% or more, of the APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients used in the US generic drugs. All right, all that nonsense is over, and I want to share with you guys someone who came to our training last November and left an awesome email. Not an awesome situation, but I wanted just to show you that people have been using our training in their everyday lives, and it's benefited them. So rarely do I ever get to hear this or talk about it, but I like to share it with you. Said, "Hey, Doug, thought I would share my recent experience with the evil in this world and how training played into it. My wife and I just completed the rehab of an old house for use as a rental part of our real estate business. We got it rented. However, it turns out that the tenant used the identity of someone else, so stolen identity, to sign the lease and then never moved in. They immediately violated the lease by putting a wrecked car in the side yard and delayed removal of it. We now know it was used as a marker. We suspected something was up and engaged our attorney to start eviction, a termination process for the lease violations. My wife ended up entering into the empty house with an exterminator to address a roach issue. While spraying, they found a money counting machine in the cabinet and duffel bags in the broiler drawer of the oven. She took pictures and exited as quickly as she could. We posted termination paperwork immediately per state law. The fake tenant called about the paperwork, and we told them we know what is going on and you have 24 hours to get out. And thankfully, they did. When I arrived the following day, the car outside was gone. However, I still needed to change the locks. Opening the house, I did not know what I would find in it. I needed to clear the house. I was confident and used my brain. That's one of the things that we always talk about in our training, being confident in your skills and thinking continuously while you're walking into a domicile. I left the front door open should I need a point to retreat quickly and cleared each room. Thankfully, they just left with zero damage. I need to get my wife and daughters out for the CQB class. Thanks again, Doug. Hey, brother, for you who sent that to us, I'm super happy that the little bit of training that we showed to you that weekend helped you out with your daily life. You never know when you'll actually need these types of skills. It's best just to be able to take a course, go back home, and continuously practice them because I'm not going to be there the day something bad happens to you. Typically, law enforcement is not going to be sitting right next to you, holding your pocket, walking around trying to protect you. You are the first responder from an accident happening and you're having to apply self-aid or buddy aid, medical aid to somebody, to the most unfortunate, which could be an active shooter, an active murder going on in your area, even to acts of vandalism, any type of act of criminal activity. Look what's happening to these freaking Tesla drivers all around the country. You just never know what's gonna happen when you leave your house that morning to go to work and then to come home. It's a dangerous world. It's a dangerous country. Have a plan. Get training and be ready at all points of time. Doesn't mean be a paranoid schizophrenic, go live underground and start eating baked beans all the time, but have a plan. You live realistically, all right? That doesn't mean walking around in fear. The Lord didn't give you a spirit of fear. But we have assets that are in the area, all right, probably in your local area that you can go and get trained by. Go to your local gun shop, see if there's anyone that's there that'll offer some sort of training. Find someone who teaches tactics in your area if you can't ever reach us. Unfortunately, very few people do the specific type of training that we do. The type of training that we do is more of, in law enforcement terms, we call it scenario-based training. So you're not shooting a live gun at the CQB course. You are shooting a simunitions gun, and another person is shooting a simunitions gun at you as well. Or he may be using a prop knife or hammer or whatever the Hollywood tools that we use. The whole goal is to get your brain engaged into a situation that typically should never happen to you, but let's get you in there, get you used to it, get you aware of it, get all the rookie shakes out of you so you can respond accordingly and survive. That's the whole biggest goal. No matter what condition you come to us in for training, our job is to make sure you leave more confidently, right? Tomorrow we're gonna be doing a Bible study session. I'm freaking done with talking about politics, so it's up to you to follow this crap on your own. I apologize for the few choice words, swear words that I've said. As a pastor, I shouldn't be talking like that. I have a slip in behavior every now and then. My wife shall reprimand me so everyone can feel better about that. But listen, as we take this world seriously, you take the threat seriously. That's why you arm yourselves. That's why you learn defense tactics. You know, that's why we save money to the best of our ability because no one trusts the freaking banks. Um, I don't trust the banks. I'm not stupid. I keep the money inside my mattress. It's the reason why we prepare. But more importantly, the most important thing you should be doing is praising the name of the Lord every single day, getting into your Bible, whatever it is that you're doing to continuously approach the Lord, however that rigmarole is for you, don't stop. Continuously bring your burdens to the Lord. Be a brother to someone who needs it. Be that helping hand to someone who can't help themselves. You want to show brother loving brother, go and help your neighbors someday, right? Like me this morning, cutting the heads off of almost 20 chickens and getting blood all over me. You know, be a helping hand to the best of your ability. Be the salt, be the light. When people see you, do they see Jesus? When you speak to people, do they hear Jesus? When people see you, they see how you respond to others. It is inspiring to them to want to be like you. And a lot of times it generates conversation. Hey man, why are you so dang nice? Why are you so helpful? Why is it every time we go out to eat, you're always leaving the biggest tip I've ever seen? What's the deal? Why do you do stuff like that? Well, tell them. Let me tell you about my testimony. Let me tell you about what Jesus did for me. In terms of your testimony, the Lord was leading me over the weekend to talk to a brother about testimony. This is my way of talking about this. When you have to deal with demonic forces, all right? I'm pretty sure everybody who listens at some point in time, you've sat in your house, you've had that large shadow come into your room, you felt a overwhelming pulsation of fear hit you. The fight is real. Those entities are real. It's not make believe. What the Bible says is true. Learn how to use your testimony in your own defense. All right. It's not what I did. It's nothing I can do to hold back the dark forces of these times. The demons laugh at whatever it is I think I can do in my flesh, but it's what he can do in me. He who is in me is greater than he who is in the world. And it's as simple as that, man. If you don't know Jesus Christ, l enter him into your heart. Let him come into your heart. Let him change your life. Let him teach you the proper way to live on this earth. It's a representative of the kingdom. When he knocks on that door, are you gonna answer, or are you gonna continue to wait? Or are you gonna hesitate and fear? "Lord, I'm not worthy. I'm the most awful creature you've ever seen. I don't deserve the forgiveness. I don't deserve the love. I don't deserve the fatherly approach that you give to me. I don't deserve the protection you give to me. Do not let the devil convince you and use your sins against you that you don't deserve redemption, that you are not worthy of his salvation. What do you think he went with the mission on the cross for? None of us deserve it. None of us. None of us could save ourselves. There wasn't a thing any of us could have done. That's why Jesus went to that cross willingly. He didn't he didn't spill his blood on accident. He poured it out willfully. He took the lashes on his back willfully. He carried that heavy cross through that through that freaking crowd of people who scorned him, who laughed at him, who threw stuff on him. He endured the torture of the Romans. He did all that for us. He didn't ever have to do it. He could have stayed in his godly nature and just done away with everything, but instead, he chose to come down here as a man, as a meek man, to say that, "I've been where you've been. Probably no one has been tortured to the way I have. I did it so that there can be a relation there for people like me whenever I was denying Christ to say, there's no way you can understand what I've been through. You're up there. I'm stuck down here. Well, on the contrary, my friend, he did that for us. The greatest thing that's ever happened in my life was accepting Jesus into my heart. Second greatest thing that's ever happened in my life is putting a ring on the finger of my wife. The third would be my children. I can never not put what Jesus has done in my life at the tippy top. It's just it's always there no matter what. Every time I read the Bible, if I don't get just swollen with love or sometimes, unfortunately, deep sadness for the knowledge of what's happening to people, and I break out in tears, I mean, it happens to me every time I read, because every time I read the words in the Bible, I hear my Father. Every time I read the words in the Bible, I feel the redemption that I don't deserve. Every time I pick up my Bible, my fears go away. Every time I read into the Bible, I read an extra page. And once I start that, the process doesn't stop. Every time I've picked up the Bible, I've received new knowledge. Every time I've picked up the Bible, I have remembered to stay humble. I have been taught love. I never knew love. You can ask my wife when we first got together. I was a little bit of a rocky road. I never understood love. I didn't understand how to apply it. I didn't understand how to receive it because it was kinda denied to me most of my life when I was growing up. It was my Lord who taught me that. And if you are as stubborn of a former heathen as I am, if you were as much of an animal as I was, trust me, my friends, the Lord understands your pain. You are not beyond the reach of salvation. Stop letting the devil tell you about that. All right? That's one of the little tricks he does. What I try to tell people, and this is what I do, maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. But every time the fiery darts get cast my way, I tell them of my testimony. Every time that thought comes into my head that doesn't belong to me, I remind the demons of my testimony. My testimony is very simple. I was bought for a price you cannot pay. There's nothing that you can do to me. You can't take me. You can't have me. You can't shake me. You can't make me afraid. You can't make me doubt. You can't make me move one step backwards. The Lord is my shield. The Lord is my strength. He's the one who propels me forward. Battle's His. I'm just showing up for the fight. Rest in the knowledge that the Lord lives, that He loves you, that He prays for you, that He fights for you. Rest in Him, my friends, and all will be well. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll be starting at 5 o'clock Central Time. 5 o'clock Central Time. Bible study. See you then. Stay frosty. See you next time.